Hello, everybody. We're just going to give people a few more minutes to join, and then we will be starting our keynote shortly. We'll give everyone about a minute or so more, and then we will get started. Okay, so hello, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of the 2020 Tustin Women Conference. I'm Emily, one of the co-chairs, and we are so excited to introduce our keynote for today. Bela Labovitch is the Vice President of Engineering at Athena Health, our title sponsor this year. Athena Health aims to build a thriving ecosystem of delivering accessible, high quality, and sustainable healthcare for all. We are super excited that they've partnered with us this year to sponsor the conference and that they are committed to supporting the women in tech community. Bela graduated from Brandeis with a bachelor's in computer science before going on to get a master's from Northeastern. In her time before joining Athena Health, she has held a wide variety of positions ranging from CTO, VP, architect, and developer at companies spanning from startups all the way up to large enterprises. Today, she is on the steering committee for the Women's Leadership Forum at Athena Health and founded their Women in Technology initiative. Today, she's here to share her experience and what she's learned. And feel free to ask questions throughout her presentation in the stage chat. We'll be doing Q&A at the end. Take it away.
Thank you, Emily. Hello, everybody. I am so delighted to be here with you. As a woman who's been in tech for well over 30 years and is as passionate, if not today, if not way more so than when I started, I'm here today to shamelessly convince you, if you aren't already convinced, that tech is the place to be and the place to stay. So let me take you on, let's go on a journey. So over 35 years ago, I started as an undergraduate at Brandeis University. I wasn't sure if I wanted to major in psychology or computer science. I'd always listened to my friends' problems through high school, and I thought I'd make a great counselor. And on the other hand, my parents sent me off to college and told me that they heard software engineering was a up-and-coming career in those days. You could solve great problems and, more importantly, get a job. So I took my first programming class in BASIC. You may or may not have heard of BASIC, but it was a big programming language in those days. And that was the beginning of my ride in tech. So I got on this ride and I have never got off because I absolutely love what I do. And tech is such a great place to be. You can see I've played various roles in my career, all of them in tech. In the early part of my career, I was a software engineer. Then I became an engineering leader. And then through the middle part of my career, I chose to be an individual contributor where I wasn't actually leading people, but actually doing work. And it was a better fit for me as I balanced my career and early motherhood. And then the last 10 years, I've been back in engineering leadership, all of it in healthcare, because I love healthcare. There's so many interesting problems to solve. And then what you don't see here actually is I did manage to fulfill my passion for counseling. I'm a volunteer right now. The last 10 years, I've been a stress volunteer. I do volunteer shifts on Sunday nights. So I'm guessing some of you here are thinking of a career in tech or are just curious about it. And some of you are on your own journey and hoping you made a good choice for yourself. So for all of you, I'm going to share with you my top 10 reasons why a career in tech is amazing. So the top 10 reasons why a career in tech is amazing. Let me start out. So number one, you get to change the world in small and big ways. So for those of you that have taken a programming class and are picturing sort of tech, computer science as just coding, it's so much more than that. Programming is a tool to solve problems. And in my career, I've had the opportunity to solve some very fun problems, from enabling money transfer across countries to tackling some of the burning issues in healthcare. So I'll tell you about two of them. So the picture on the left here isn't a laptop. It's actually an automated pillbox that communicates with a central server in a website. So it was built for your grandparents who have to take a lot of pills. And when it's time for them to take their pills, first it lights up, then it starts blinking, then it starts beeping really loudly, and then it calls and texts them. And it can also text your grandma, or actually it can also text you or a caregiver and to remind, so that they can call grandma and remind her to take her medication. So why is this important? Well, when patients don't take their medication, they land up in the hospital again, and that costs the health system a lot of money. In fact, it's a $400 billion problem in the United States for the health system. So that, for me, this was a way I got to change the world in a small way. I was the first developer at a startup. I met the founder who had this idea and got to build this pillbox, which was really, really a lot of fun. This version actually, as you can see, has videos so that the patient can chat with their loved ones. But that's just one way in which I feel like I got to chip away at an important problem. So now I'm at Athena Health, and we have a big mission, which is to create an ecosystem that provides accessible, high quality, and sustainable healthcare for all. And what our teams do is they write systems that your doctor uses, and we really help the doctor remain in business, but also let our doctors be doctors and focus on patient care. And we've done some cool things even recently. When COVID hit, our teams worked together and we produced dashboards like the one here that helped identify patients most vulnerable to COVID-19. And this was extremely helpful, again, to the health system, to our doctors. It was really an amazing thing to be able to do so quickly. We have a lot of data. We have, about 160,000 providers on our network and data of about 100 million patients. So it's pretty cool. The other really fun thing that our teams did is they came together, and in 6 weeks, we wrote a telehealth product that allowed our doctors to be able to sort of work with patients virtually. So there's a lot of things you can do. You could choose to sort of chip away at climate change with your skill set. You could help improve self-driving cars. But you really get to do a lot of things and solve a lot of problems. So number one reason to be in tech, you get to change the world in small and big ways. All right, so I'm going to go on to number two, which is you get to solve problems and be creative in the ways you build solutions. So another thing I really love about the tech is the creativity. Code and architecture are like writing songs or stories. Like, granted, they're logic-based songs and stories, but there's still rarely just one way in which you can approach a problem. And that's really great, and it's fun. I'll tell you about a problem our engineers are solving right now, and this is just one of so many. We're replacing a rules engine. So what does that mean? So when you visit a doctor or after you visit, there's people in the back office who are actually filling out a claim for your visit and sending it off to an insurance company so that the doctor's office can get paid by the insurance company. And believe it or not, when that administrator presses return and submits that claim, there's about 25,000 rules that run to make sure it's done correctly. So in rewriting the rules engine, the engineers on my team are thinking about a lot of different problems. Number one, they're thinking about scale, right? We submit 250 million claims a year worth $60 billion. So how can they have to really think through how we continue to scale this engine as we have more and more claims going through our system. They have to be thinking about performance. When somebody presses submit on a claim, they can't be waiting 10 minutes for the set of rules to run. So we're actually targeting 100 millisecond performance. So they need to be thinking about, well, how can we make this rules engine really performant? They have to be thinking about cost. Rules engine runs in AWS, but most of the claims get submitted during the day. How can we scale up our infrastructure during the day, bring it down at night? They have to be thinking about reliability, right? If our rules engine goes down, we got thousands of people across the country just sitting around with nothing to do, and that's not going to be okay. So we need to be thinking about, all right, we have to have different regions. So if this region goes down, we need to be able to bring up the rules engine in another region. And lastly, they think about user interfaces. We really need to make the user interface and our systems really easy for people to use so that they're very efficient. So there's so many of these problems that you solve when you're in tech as an engineer, as a product manager, and you get to do it with creativity, because there's really not one way in which you solve a problem. There's just so many different ways. So you get to solve problems and be creative in the way you build solutions. So number 2, all right, so I'm going to go to number 3. You get to continuously learn new things. So the cool part of being in the tech industry is that technology is continually changing. So you're never bored because there's always something to learn, something to keep up with. When I started learning languages, and you may not have heard of these languages, but I learned BASIC and COBOL and Pascal. And then came Java and C# and .NET. And then object orientation came with Java. And then there was the internet, and then the cloud, phones, machine learning, AI, data mining. It's just amazing fun. You really get to be this lifelong learner, which is such a privilege. I've learned more languages than I can count on 2 hands, seriously. I've coded in at least more than 12 languages, but it's just fun. It's just fun. You really get to learn a lot. And honestly, if you don't like being a continual learner, I have friends who started in the 80s and learned COBOL, and today they're still coding in COBOL, and they're keeping our unemployment system up and making a lot of money doing that. So, you get to continuously learn in tech, but you don't have to. But I think it's a great privilege. All right. Number 4, you get to make the best friends ever. Your friends in your tech classes, they may end up being your best friends. Many years at Brandeis, I sat next to the 4 on the right side in my classes, and today they're my best friends. Your friends will help you get jobs. They'll be there for you for advice, technical or not. And I'll talk about my friends. My friend Alain on the left, he's a security consultant today. He helped me get a couple of my jobs. My friend Laura after him, she is a VP of product management at Harvard Business Publishing. And we've had parallel careers. We talk twice a week. We exchange ideas. We bounce issues off of each other. It's just been amazing. My friend Sherry on the right there, she's still a software engineer. She just loves it. Still doing it 30 plus years later. My friend Melanie on the right, she is a mother. And, that's the path she chose for herself. So it's just amazing to have and make friends in tech. And I thought I'd share with you. So my friend Laura, by the way, is in the middle. That's when we graduated with my friend Rob, who's actually a professor, was a professor of game development at WIP and now is in New Zealand as a professor. And I thought I'd share the picture on the left. That's us back at Brandeis with a couple of my friends. And in those days, you actually had to go to the computer center to do your homework. And those are dumb terminals that we used that were connected to mainframes at the back end. The mainframes were about as powerful as your phones are today, probably less powerful. But anyway, on my tech journey, I've made wonderful friends and I've hung on to them. And that's one of the things that I will definitely say to you. Reach out to those in your tech classes and stay in touch with them through the years. All right. Number 5, you get to work in teams. I don't know how many of you have heard of Agile, but sometimes when you picture a tech career, you think of it looking like your homework assignments, right? Where you're sitting in front of your computer alone and you're solving a problem or you're doing a group project. But most companies today use Agile development methodologies for product development. And some of you that have actually either taken a class in Agile or perhaps done an internship know this already. And the core of Agile is actually working as a team. And your team is self-sustaining. And you meet on a daily basis and you decide what work you want to do in the next period of time. A sprint, a period of time is called a sprint. It's 2 weeks, a month. The team gets to decide what they plan to deliver in a sprint or in the next 2 weeks or the next month. And then they work together. So your Agile team will have probably some developers. It may have a UX person. It will definitely have a product manager called a product owner. You may have a data analyst. You may have a quality engineer, but you're a team. And you're accountable for delivery as a team and not as an individual. So tech is a team sport. And that makes it, again, a lot of fun. So you get to work in teams when you're in technology. All right, moving on. Number 6, tech offers flexibility when you need it. So I have really appreciated the flexibility that tech has offered in my own journey, my career journey. That little guy on the left is my younger son, Devin, who looked at me when he could barely speak. And he said, Mom, I hate that you work. And at that moment, I realized that how badly I had been balancing work and being a mother. So I spent the next 10 years working from home part-time. And that worked well for me. There are many women who do a fantastic job balancing very well. I appreciated the flexibility for when I needed it, and in different parts of your career journey, you may need flexibility for a host of different reasons. And certainly right now during this COVID period, people in tech have the flexibility of working from home, which is really great. And then I just wanted to tell you that both my boys that you see on the right went on their own career journeys. My son, Chris, on the right, majored in politics. He actually went to Brandeis. My son, Devin, on the left, started his college career as a finance major. But both of them are software engineers today. So I don't know what the lesson is there. Maybe I finally convinced them. Maybe mom's always right. But anyway, I thought I'd share that story. All right. So tech offers flexibility. That's really useful. Number 7, you can play so many roles. So there are many roles that you can play with in tech. And I'm just going to talk about a few of them. Certainly, you can be a software engineer and code if you would like. You can be a software architect and design systems. You can be a UX engineer. We have a number of UX engineers at Athena. They design the user interface for our clients. They get to work with clients, observe them. They're designers. They love design and this is a really great career for those of you that enjoy design. You can be a database engineer. There are so many databases today, SQL, NoSQL. You could choose to sort of focus on databases. You could be an Agile project manager. And I talked about Agile a little earlier. You could be a Scrum Master. You could be an Agile coach. There's a lot you can do when it comes to Agile. You could be a DevOps engineer. You can bring automation to operations. That's a really up and coming thing right now. You could be a business analyst. A business analyst translates business requirements for engineers. It's not as popular a career now as it used to be, but many companies are still hire business analysts. You can be a product manager. Product management is so much fun. You get to work with clients. You get to look at the industry and see what the need is. You get to look at your competitors, and you look inwards and work with your engineering teams and your larger teams to produce product. That's a great career. You can be a data scientist. Nowadays, there is so much data produced. Everything produces data, from your Fitbit to just about anything. And data scientists use machine learning, or do business analytics. They use machine learning and AI. There's a lot of really great stuff you can do as a data scientist. At Athena, we definitely use data science. We use AI to solve a lot of issues for our clients. So this is a really fun thing you can do. You could be a software tester. If you like breaking things, be a software tester. That's a great career. You could be a network engineer. And honestly, I could go on. I could have pages and pages, and I could go on and on. But there's just so many roles you can play in tech. So that's another reason to be in tech. All right, number 8, you can get a job. Yes. You can get a job with tech skills. Pre-COVID, there was 1 engineer for every 3 jobs posted. So technologists were and continue to be in great demand. We are hiring for sure at Athena. I know a number of companies are hiring, and a tech job pays well. So that's number 8. Number 9, tech needs you. And this one is important to me. Women and underrepresented minorities are not only needed in tech to increase innovation, but we're also needed to increase revenue for companies. There have been so many studies that have shown that companies with greater gender diversity have greater revenue. So, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, yes, women and underrepresented folks are indeed a minority in tech. Certainly engineering at Athena, we have about 19% women now, but we're really working hard to bring that to 50 or more than 50, honestly. And we have a number of things going on. We have, Athena has a women's leadership forum and a women in tech initiative. And we find community and support in each other. We mentor and encourage each other. And it isn't always easy, but really, you can, when you get out into industry, you can find community, and that's just another great thing nowadays. So my experience as a woman in tech hasn't always been easy. So that'll take me to my next point, that you learn to navigate adversity in tech. Tech teaches you to navigate. Like in my career, I've certainly run into adversity in many forms. It's not always amazing. It's mostly amazing, but certainly companies I've worked at have gone out of business. I've been laid off a few times. I've actually been fired. And I've been challenged certainly by males who felt threatened by me. I've been accused of leading like a mother when I was an engineering leader. But guess what? Life has adversity, and it's part of our challenge as humans to navigate adversity. And so for myself, for example, every time I got laid off, I think I learned something about myself. I grew just a little, and in the end, I found something better. So I know nowadays many of you are in fact navigating some form of adversity related to the COVID situation. And so I thought I would end my talk with some lessons learned from navigating a career in technology. So let's see, my lessons learned from a career in tech. Number one, stay optimistic. Some of you are natural optimists, some of you are not. But the one advice I would say is optimism is a choice. And you actually have that ability to decide how you want to look at something purposefully. And so it is in your mind to look at adversity, to look at situations, and look to the future and stay optimistic. So my number one thing that I would say to you is stay optimistic. Things will work out. They always work out in the end. Number two, be confident. Many of us certainly are not naturally confident. I remember I look back on myself in college. I was very quiet. I was not confident at all. And through the years, I've learned confidence sort of two ways. One is just talking to myself and saying, even if I don't feel confident, I try to look confident. And I say to my boys sometimes, fake it till you make it. And the other thing is actually watching people who are confident. I've learned a lot by watching people who are confident talk and sort of trying to emulate them. But really be confident and believe in yourself. Really do believe in yourself. All right. 3, be curious. Be a lifelong learner. That is a difference maker, really a difference maker in tech, but in life. For me, I actually put a half hour on my calendar every day to learn. I mean, all of you are in college to learn, high school to learn. When you get in industry, it's hard to almost find that time. So I have a half an hour on my calendar every day. I have a few learning buddies, and we just watch tech videos because we find it fun. But be curious, continue to be curious. That's important. Be fearless. So I hope you're inspired by RBG. She was fearless. And really, fear is something, there's a difference between fear and caution. I mean, do be cautious, but do look at fear in the face. We all are, have fear. Certainly I had fear. One of what I tried to do is put myself into situations where I just did not comfortable. And this year, I decided I was going to talk and do presentations. And, you always have that fear. What if I don't do well? What if they don't resonate with what I say? And what I do is I look at fear and I say, yep, you're fearful. Let it go and move forward. So be fearless, be inspired, and be fearless. That is definitely something that, particularly as women, I would say to you. Give that some thought. Be passionate. Bring passion to what you do. Whatever it is you do, be passionate. Actually look inside. See what makes you alive. See what makes you passionate. I am passionate about talking to you because I want all of you to stay in tech, be in tech. It's such a great place to be, and we need more women in tech. So be passionate. I'm passionate about my work on a daily basis. Again, I love what I do. Bring passion. That's important. All right, be a leader. Each and every one of us is a leader. Some of us know it, some of us don't know it. And so what I will say to you is find that leader in you. Take initiative. It can be really small. If you're a freshman, bring a couple of your friends together, people you've met together. Take that initiative. That's leadership. Join a club and contribute your ideas. That's leadership. Maybe start a club. Maybe organize a conference like this. That's all leadership, but be a leader. Make sure that you're purposefully, intentionally taking some initiative and being a leader and working on those leadership capabilities through the years. Hang on to your friends. I've said this before, but I will say that again. I will say that particularly in college, not only hang on to your friends, make new friends, but make the effort to make new friends. And it's not always easy. And sometimes you have fear, what a fear of reaching out. What if they say no? It's okay. Just make that effort to find friends, go join some clubs, find friends, and then hang on to your friends. I talked about that earlier. That's important. We all need friends, and they're especially all friends, girlfriends. My girlfriends have been so important to me through the years. They support me, and they keep me going sometimes through tough times. So hang on to your friends. Network. I always say network, and that's really, and I won't say I'm good at all of these. I'm not great at networking. I'm working on that right now. But that's really when you meet somebody, introduce yourself to them, get their contact information, stay in touch with them, make that effort to network, go to talks, go to conferences. The fact that you're at a conference here, the fact that you're going to be meeting people, awesome. Keep doing that. Find a mentor. So I came to this late. I have an amazing mentor right now. And a mentor does a number of different things for you, but just allows you to sort of learn from them. What I would say to you is if you find somebody that you meet and you admire, or you want to learn something from, or somebody who's doing a job that you're hoping to do in the future, ask them if they will be your mentor. And you'll be surprised. People really like to be mentors. And your mentor is somebody who can guide you, who you can bounce things off of, who can help you navigate situations. So definitely, I think finding a mentor is a great thing to do. I leave you with that advice. And lastly, have fun. Really, it's about having fun. Have fun every day. Be light, even though times may feel heavy. Make sure you make the time to have fun, find a little joy. I mean, that is really quite important. So I hope that you're all as excited about a career in tech as I am. And I'm going to end this talk by sharing with you what has helped me through my career and in my life, and particularly in these days of uncertainty and stress related to COVID-19. And that is making time to just sit and be mindful. Our minds are so full. We're constantly distracted by our to-do lists, our phones, our screens. But one of the things that I make it a point to do every day is to take some time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to just be present and breathe deeply. And the other thing I do is I make time every week, at least an hour, to just sit with a piece of paper. And sometimes I intentionally think about my work or my life. Sometimes I visualize. Just close your eyes and just visualize what you want your future to look like. And other times I'm just quiet and I see what comes to me. And you'll find this practice really helpful over time. It has been so helpful for me as I've navigated my career and definitely my life as well. And one of my favorite sayings is get on the balcony of your life, because from that balcony, you have a better chance to observe the range of possibilities. So my parting call to action for all of you is to make some time to get on that balcony. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Emily and see, I'd love to hear your thoughts and certainly if you have any questions. So back to you, Emily, and I'm going to try to find, there we go.
Hello, thank you so much for that. I think we're all definitely going to try and emulate you and your confidence. That was so inspiring. First question we have for you is from Anna. How do you find mentors, and more importantly, how do you keep in touch with your mentors? You mentioned that finding mentorship is really important.
Yep. How do you find mentors? A couple of different ways. I mean, I think going to these conferences, networking through people you meet, asking people you know if they know somebody. Those are different ways in which you could find a mentor. I'm trying to think in college as well, who do you know who might know somebody? But really ask yourself, what am I looking for in a mentor? That's your first question, right? Mm-hmm. Am I looking for someone who's doing, and I'm just going to pick on you, Emily, because I see you, but you were considering a career in, say, product management, right? Mm-hmm. How can I find somebody who's a product manager I can actually ask to be my mentor? Or you might go to a talk and you meet somebody and you admire them for some reason. You can reach out to them and ask them to be a mentor. So there are different ways. I know it's harder in college than when you're actually working, but there are ways you can do that for sure.
Yeah. Another question we have is that you've worked in like a very wide variety of roles, all in very different spaces and doing very different things. How did you know what you liked when you were moving into a new role? Like whether you wanted to take that role or not? And then how did you know when to move on?
Good questions. So one is, how did I know if I want to take that role or not? It's what I talked about earlier. I just sat. I mean, and honestly, when you look for a job, sometimes you have many offers, right? You have the opportunity to do many different things. And for me, oftentimes, I just sat quietly and I try and kind of think through, like, a couple of things are important. One is, of course, the people you're going to be working with. I can't stress enough how important the people you work with and your manager is. So one is think through the manager. Two, I am mission driven. So I think about the company I'm working for. Do I resonate with that mission? That's number two. And number three, there's no real answer. Any road you take in life, we'll just have confidence it's going to work out. It's going to be the right thing. So I oftentimes sit quietly and see what my insights tell me. So that was the first question. What was the second question, Emily?
How did you know when it was time for you to move on to a new role?
So for me personally, a couple of different reasons have, I actually like to stay. I'm not one that likes to move, but I have moved so many times. And so I've moved for many different reasons. Oftentimes I move not because I want to, but because the company went out of business or it got acquired or something happened. But one of the things that makes me really decide it's time to move is when I'm not learning anymore. I like to continually be learning because you want to come in excited and not just monotonously do your same thing. So when I'm not learning anymore, that signals to me it's a time to move. Sometimes, you have a manager you love and they leave, and sometimes they take you with them. So I've had managers a couple of times that have left my company and then reached out to me and said, hey, will you come? So I've gone. A couple of times managers I've worked for have left and have been replaced by somebody who maybe I didn't resonate with as well. So there are a number of reasons why you move on. But again, listen quietly to your intuition. You're going to know. It's going to tell you when it's time to move on.
Right. That makes sense. Another question we have from Sophia, what are some of your tips for networking during virtual times?
That's a tough one, Sophia. Definitely a tough one. So I think, again, joining clubs, joining associations, going to talks. The way I've been able to network is I go to talks and then they have a sort of usually a networking period at the end. Attending things that have that networking period at the end is definitely helpful. A lot of you are going to be going to career fairs and meeting people. Take their contact information. Don't be afraid to reach out to them after. People like it when you reach out after. So reach out after. Don't be fearful. Do that. But it is. I agree with you. It's harder during these times of COVID, but don't let that stop you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another question from Michaela. You mentioned that you're able to have a great work-life balance. When you have a super busy work week, how do you maintain that balance? And then additionally for me, what do you suggest for establishing a good work-life balance when you're starting, especially for people in their early careers?
So two things, look, I can't tell you I'm perfect when it comes to work-life balance. I work way too much. But then I have these moments of stepping back and saying, hey, I'm not doing what I enjoy. I'm a reader, for example, and lately I've been thinking a lot that I haven't been making enough time to read. So I've been actually carving out some non-negotiable times. I have twice a week at lunch. I have not what I call non-negotiable times where I do yoga, for example, right? So I think making some non-negotiable times is important to sort of achieve that work-life balance. But one of the things that I actually tell my boys right now when you're younger is that's the time where you can work really hard. And that's the time where you can establish yourself and do a lot in your career because you have more flexibility. Once you have kids later on, you have more other responsibilities. So I don't know if I quite answered your question, but I think work-life balance, like anything else, keep a vision. Visualize what you want things to look like, and then work towards that. And that's for work-life balance, but that's for anything. Visualize, stop, visualize, see what you want things to look like, and then try to incrementally get towards there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A question from Erica. If you decide to leave a company because it's not a right fit or you got laid off or are fired, how do you talk about that experience in interviews for new roles? How do you communicate that experience effectively?
So you're not always asked in interviews, honestly. Occasionally you're asked, why did you leave your last position? And then you can definitely sort of talk about it honestly. I got laid off. You don't talk so much about I got fired, right? That's a tough, and I hope none of you will have that experience. And certainly my experience was really around. I won't talk about that too much more, but that's a rare experience to have, right? I wasn't fired for not working. I was doing very well at the company I was at, and it was just more of a issue with someone trying to sabotage me, a male who felt threatened by me. But in general, I think you can be honest. You can really be honest about that. I think it's good to be honest, and these things happen in your career. It's okay. Right.
A question from Ananya. How do you deal with the discomfort of being a minority in a male-dominated space?
I think a little bit about is how you view things. A lot of what happens is in your mind. And so I certainly don't view it as discomfort. I like to view people as people, and most of the males that I work with view me as a peer. And I view them as a peer. So I don't tend to focus in on discomfort. I look discomfort in the face and I say, I'm feeling discomfort. Why am I feeling that discomfort? I might work through it that way. But right, especially now, most males are very, very supportive. And so I work through it, maybe looking at myself and having honest conversations. But it's been great. Particularly the last few years, a lot of males are very supportive to bringing more women into tech because they're starting to see that we bring a lot of innovation, we bring a lot of thought that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. And then you touched on an experience, but you don't have to talk specifically about that one. How do you handle situations where your peers might be trying to undermine your authority, and how did you handle that?
Look, I sort of handled it by just doing the best that I could do, honestly. I felt like my abilities should speak for themselves. And so I worked hard and I did the best I could do. I think it was a different time. Now there's just a whole lot more support and working it through with peers, with other women. And that's why we have a lot of support for women in our Women's Leadership Forum, where I work at Athena right now, Women in Tech initiatives, other women. So looking for that kind of support, doing the best you can do. I think mostly that. Yeah.
Right. And referencing the communities that you've built and reaching on the network that you have hopefully tried to build.
Yes,
definitely what you touched on.
Absolutely.
One more question from Rebecca before we wrap it up, our second to last question. Bela, you've worked in numerous impressive positions and are incredibly accomplished. What do you think, if you had to distill it down, has been the key to your success?
If I was to distill it down, honestly, optimism. A lot of what I talked about, right? Optimism, trying to be confident, trying to be fearless. A lot of the things that I distilled down in that last slide, I would say, has been key. And just believing really deeply that whatever happens, I'm going to be fine, and it's going to be great. And that's the way I navigate life, honestly. And it's worked well for me so far. Everybody navigates life differently. So that's how, but I shouldn't not say that I work really hard, and each of you, work really hard. That's a given. But do the best you can do at everything you can do, and work hard. I think that's important.
And our last question to wrap up: what do you wish young Bela in college had known? What would you have told your college self?
Very cool. I would have told my college self, quit worrying so much. Everything is going to work out. Everything is going to be okay. I think I was, when I was in college, I wasn't confident. I was quiet. I worried. I did work hard. I gave it all I had. But I didn't have that level of confidence that I have sort of got through my journey. So I would say to young Bela, give it all you got, work hard. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be okay. And I will say the same to all of you, that particularly those out there that worry a lot. Just quit worrying. Just do the best you can. It's gonna be good. And I understand these are really difficult times with the COVID-19 situation, some classes being virtual. Your college experience may not be what you imagined, but that's okay. You're going to learn a little bit through it, and then you're going to work through it, and it's going to work out great. So I'm an optimist. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and for such an inspiring talk. We will be breaking for 10 minutes now, and then if you want to join us in the sessions tab at 1, we will be having Intro to Product Management, Conversational Artificial Intelligence, and then also a workshop with our sponsor about building a professional brand. See you all at 1.
Bye-bye, everyone.